Loosen your grip and prepare to be propelled to the edge of existence and beyond. Consider dying with an eye towards the afterlife. That's what John, a committed techie and Christian, felt. After a near-death encounter in June, John met Jesus while fishing on the Brazos River. It was then that he saw God's view of the afterlife. He saw the self-centeredness and callousness of those who prioritized themselves, as well as the compassion and generosity of those who had committed their life to helping others. John accepted his second chance at life and made a vow to help others when he came back to earth. John's transforming near-death experience is told in this endearing narrative. One summer, my dad told me he went fishing on the Brazos River while on vacation. As he cast his line, I begged to join him in splashing the water. My 4 neighbors were invited. Getting into Dad's car, we headed towards the river. After we fell into the sea, we walked 30 or 40 yards away from Dad's fishing spot. An hour into our game, Dad was pushing us to follow him down the bank since he was headed upstream. We waded upstream, 5 kids and me, who could swim. As we paddled upstream, I stepped into a hole and sunk in, dropping 10 yards behind the group. Everything happened so fast I didn't even have time to catch my breath before I passed out. I struggled to the surface, gasping for oxygen. I spewed water out as soon as I touched the surface, and I never had a chance to regain my breath before plunging in again. I started to throw up water again after getting up, but before I could catch my breath, I was back beneath the waves. This happened more than once since I was exhausted and out of breath. For not breathing sufficiently as I was floating over the ocean, I was furious with myself. I stopped caring about the fight because I was so bored of it. I moved in the same slow motion as in movies or TV series. I realized my arms and legs were worthless since they moved slowly. I left my body behind. Seeing my fighting body made being in 2 locations no longer a problem. I was literally on the ground, but psychologically I was in the air. From where I stood, I could see my body writhing in the water even though I was unable to feel anything. I climbed further and reached a height of 10 feet above the ocean. Despite working beneath the waves, I was happy to be above it all and felt neither discomfort nor fatigue. A luminous sphere appeared approximately 20 feet away. It hung brightly at eye level while I thought about my situation. It swirled like smoke inside its own boundaries, shooting brilliant light. It was about the size of a basketball. A tiny black dot became visible in the light. That dot had all of my attention. I watched as Jesus appeared and stood in front of me as it grew till it was as big as myself. I instantly made a stop sign with my protective hands raised. I didn't think I was worthy of his presence, even if he was holy and innocent. I became tainted by this world's immorality as a mortal. I was feeling so unworthy and guilty, but then he touched me. He stood gloriously in front of me, his skin glowing golden all around. I was able to observe his incredible brilliance in all its grandeur, despite the fact that his speed, just over 186,000 miles per second, is too fast for human eyes to see. There are no words to express his incredible intelligence. This light seemed to flood me with spiritual force, and I could see it. From this light, the knowledge, kindness, and love of Jesus seemed to reach right down to the core of who I am. My entire body was visible to be white. He was before me with the long hair and beard seen in 2 millennia-old photos and paintings. He said something to me that I don't recall. She was told to relax down and not to worry. His voice was melodious and powerful. I have been deaf since birth, therefore I have trouble hearing and communicating. To perform well in class, I had difficulty. Due to my hearing loss, I was unable to communicate with teachers and classmates or finish grade-level assessments. When Jesus talked to me, he spoke plainly. He had a beautiful musical voice. Neither of us could get our jaws to move freely as we were speaking. It appeared that we were communicating via ESP. When I attempted to talk to him, another strange thing occurred. He heard me before I could say anything. He would talk to me as soon as a thought occurred to me, which gave me the impression that he could read my mind. We had always interacted with one another in this way. A large screen appeared. This huge screen brought back memories of drive-in movies for me. He and I were close, so the screen was huge. On this screen, innumerable moments from my brief existence on Earth were repeated. There were several scenarios on the screen. There, it seemed like my life was being filmed. The scenes were arranged haphazardly and had no obvious connection to one another. According to a lot of reports, our lives become more fuzzy as we age. This is what I experienced. Jesus was pointing to an image that had expanded to nearly fill the screen. Still, I could see other possibilities circling the one we're talking about. He quizzed me on the narrative as we watched. I was asked about tugging my sister's hair, tossing rocks at my dog, twisting the tail of my neighbor's cat, and lying to my mother. During our screening, I made up stories, tortured, mocked, and tore someone's clothes. He pointed out my major mistakes and best efforts in each case. We discussed each scenario together, and he made me give an explanation of my actions. I tried to downplay my actions by giving my words more context, but he interrupted me since I knew I had erred more than once. He would commend me on everything I did well in a scene. Jesus laughed out loud, delighted to witness something funny. He had the best sense of humor there was. There were far fewer scenes that I was winning than losing. It was clear to me that we didn't get along, and suddenly I was terrified of being damned. Suddenly, he grabbed my hand. We gravitated through a tunnel rather rapidly. The tunnel's walls, ceiling, and floor appeared to be whirling, similar to thicker smoke surrounding a fire. When you drive fast, stationary objects such as trees and electricity cables get blurry. It felt like the walls, ceiling, and floor were all rotating around me, yet I was unaware that the tunnel was moving. All I can say is that Genesis refers to the walls, ceiling, and floor as firmament most accurately. I was studying the features of the tunnel and saw how quickly time was passing. There was a light in the distance ahead. In light of this, aha, we're finally getting there. I had already left by then. My pal touched my foot tenderly as she swam beneath me. I was underwater once more. I tried to get out of the water again, gasping for breath. Our friend swam under me and between my legs, then hauled me to the surface so he could swim back towards the coast. I sucked for breath and tasted the greatest air I had ever tasted. After we had swum a short way, I realized he was struggling. I knew that I would drown him if I pulled him down any longer. I went over him with one leg and fell into the river. He gasped as my feet touched the brook. We both passed out as soon as we reached the coast. I regurgitated the river water I had ingested during the altercation. I was throwing up because I was swollen from drinking so much water. After 10 or 15 more episodes of vomiting, I dry-heaved again. Every part of my body ached from the pain. My stomach was stretched from the extra fluids, prolonged heaving, and vomiting, and my muscles were tired from the fight. I was in pain for 2 weeks straight. After a long day, my dad drove us home to relax. Jesus in the tunnel had escaped my memory. My life seemed to pass by as I reflected on the occurrence in the days and weeks that followed. 30 years later, a newspaper article recounting a near-death incident brought back memories. After some consideration, I came to the conclusion that post-traumatic stress disorder was the reason behind my incapacity to recall the occurrences. My solution came to me after weeks and months of thought. The next woman you hear about will blow your mind and open your eyes with her near-death experience. Make sure not to miss it.